Welcome to the Past People, where I will talk about the people of the past. Jeanne Bacquet du Barry, otherwise known as Madame du Barry, was born in 1710 to parents out of wedlock and of servant class. Her mother was a seamstress, and her father is alleged to be a monk called Jean-Jacques de Verbenia. She was mostly known for being the mistress of Louis XV, rising from a modest childhood to a noble adulthood, before being brutally murdered during the French Revolution. Her mother moved her to Paris alongside a financier and supplier of the royal army, Monsieur Billiard de Monceau. This is the man who funded her education in a school for wayward girls at a convent. She left school at 15 and went on to become a companion to elderly widow Madame de Delly de la Garde. She was sacked due to scandal with Madame de Delly's son, due to her youth and beauty. Before becoming part of the French court, she even worked at a haberdashery shop named à la Toilette. Madame de Barry was vulnerable and naive, and so when Jean-Baptiste, a high-class pimp, introduced himself, she was quickly taken under his wing to prostitute for numerous wealthy, aristocratic men. He named her Mademoiselle Long for her clients in Paris. He gave her this title so that she could be part of the French court. As Mademoiselle Long, Jeanne became a sensation immediately. She built up a large aristocratic clientele, and she had many lovers, from the king's ministers to his courtiers. He then also married her to his brother, Comte Guillaume de Barry. He then faked her birth certificate, making her 3 years younger and appearing to be from noble descent. Her pimp wanted to influence the king, and so by installing Madame du Barry in the court, she could act as his head mistress. Louis's official mistresses were of high noble status, such as Madame de Pompadour, who died at 42 of physical exhaustion and tuberculosis in 1764. Madame du Barry would be his first non-noble mistress, but not that he knew that. Madame du Barry was introduced to the court in April 1769 and was given apartments in Versailles and other royal residences. She did manage to win the heart of the king when he was in his late 50s, but she struggled to win the hearts and respect of other nobles due to her past as a prostitute. They could not accept a woman of the street having the brass nerve to try to mingle with those above her station. One of the women who could not accept her was Marie Antoinette. Marie Antoinette was disgusted that she had been invited to the wedding to pleasure the king, and so she refused to speak to her. And when Jeanne arrived, attendees were wowed by her attractive, extravagant appearance, but shocked that she had been invited in the first place. The pair did get closer, as Marie was pressured into gaining the king's support, and so she was forced to acknowledge de Barry. Her marriage was not consummated and could be annulled at any time, so being in favour with the king or his mistress could have been detrimental to her future in the court. She famously turned to her at the New Year's reception in 1772 and said, "There are a lot of people at Versailles today." De Barry was happy to finally be accepted by other nobles in the court. As the king's mistress, she was given a life of luxury, and she had become accustomed to it. The king had gifted her a Bengali slave, Zamor, who would later go on to betray and condemn her to death. She took him to engagements, dressed in fancy clothing, to show him off, like an accessory of her class. Her routine would start at 9 with a cup of tea from her slave. She would then get dressed into nice gowns and expensive jewellery. She had personal hairdressers do her hair in powders and curls before friends, dressmakers and jewellers would pile into her apartment to gain her sales. She was extravagant, as nobles often were, while the poor people were starving, but she was very good-natured. She appealed to the king's good nature to pardon her friends from death after they fell behind from their debts. Though temporarily accepted by nobles within the court, she was banished in disgrace from court as soon as her king died of smallpox in 1774. She retired, but her past never left her, and she did go on to have further lovers. Marie Antoinette influenced her husband to exile Jeanne at the age of 31 to the Abbey de Ponton d'Arms. Jeanne was not immediately accepted by the nuns, because they knew of her royal mistress past, but they did grow to enjoy her timid and kind nature. The political situation in France worsened, and the French Revolution was on the horizon. In January 1793, King Louis XVI was executed by guillotine, following 10 months later in October by his widow, Marie Antoinette. Many members of du Barry's staff, including her slave Zamor, joined the Jacobin Club, which was the political group at the time that was detrimental in the uprising of the French Revolution. Du Barry found out, and after questioning Zamor on his connections to the group, made him quit his service. This is when he denounced his mistress to the committee, and based on his testimony, du Barry was accused of assisting those who had fled the French Revolution. The Revolutionary Tribunal of Paris accused her of treason and condemned her to death. In a last bid to save her life, she promised to tell of secret hidden gems, but her pleas were ignored. Du Barry was arrested in September of 1793, a month before Marie's death, and she was kept in the prison of Saint-Pelagie, before being moved to the Conciergerie, known as the chamber before death. Just over 3 months later, in December, she was executed by guillotine, as was often the case with nobles, on the Place de la Révolution. On the way to the guillotine, she collapsed and cried, "You are going to hurt me, why?" She screamed for mercy and begged the watching crowd for help. Her last words to the executioner are said to have been, "One more moment, Mr. Executioner, I beg you." And leave your suggestions below and I will endeavour to cover them. Please comment, like and subscribe if you wish for more stories.